Now let's go on. When they went into the hills or were driven cable tow, 2,200 miles across the Arabian desert, we took away from them everything except the language and drove them into the hills and cave sides of Europe. EU, R-O-P-E. This prefix EU means hillsides and caves. And rope is the rope to bind in. And when they got into Europe, they lost the knowledge of themselves and fell down on their all fours and became a savage people. So when you read the history of how the Caucasian has come up from a caveman, it is a marvelous history of evolution. Those that lived in the caves of Europe, the caves were facing the north, so the sun rose in the east, came around to the south, and settled in the west. But the man who was in the cave facing north, the further back in the cave he went, the darkness and the dampness of the cave produced more hair on his body. Just like you, if you put a cast on your leg because your leg got broken or your arm got broken, with no sunlight, no vitamin D, you'll find when you take the cast off, a whole lot of hair has grown. The Caucasian went into the caves of Europe and he was befriended by the dog. So in the Holy Quran, in the 18th surah called the cave, it talks about how the people of the cave made the dog their friend. And this is why Caucasian people will say to you today that the dog is man's best friend. Lie! Lie! God is man's best friend. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. Now, today a dog has more value in American society than the black man or the Native American or the Hispanic. They'll stop and pick up a dog in the street, sit the dog down at the table and let the dog eat with them, but will murder you if you're found in their neighborhood in the wrong time at the wrong place. A dog has more value because they domesticated the dog, and the dog became their friend. And there they were in the caves of Europe, sometimes growing tails. I've got pictures of this. They grew little tails. And even today, some of the children are born with tails. And they operate, cut them off. But that's nothing to be ashamed of. That you came from a cave to become Lord and Master of the earth, of the sea, and of the air. But how did you get to be Lord and Master of the earth, of the sea, and of the air? You could never have done it in your condition, losing the knowledge of yourself, not able to bury your dead. Your dead would die and lay there in the cave with you, rotten and stink. You didn't know how to cook your food. You didn't know how to build. But God turned merciful and sent Moses up in the cave. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. How was he lifted up? Moses went up there. The Caucasian was in terrible condition. Moses had to sleep in a ring of fire because, like animals are afraid of fire, they were afraid of fire. But Moses taught them about fire. Moses taught them how to bury their dead. Moses taught them how to build a home for themselves. Moses taught them the way of God and some of the forgotten technology so that they had truth and they had tricks so that they could go on to their destiny to rule until the coming of God. They have a statue of Moses in the Congressional Library. Moses, the great emancipator. They've kissed his toe until the toe had become, the metal had been worn off of it. They love Moses because without Moses, they would never have gotten up out of the cave. Moses had a job west. Moses had a job east. After he got them up, when you walking on all fours, and sometimes they tell you when you're real tired and you come home from a hard day, if you want to relax, get down on your all fours. That's not for you. White woman had no shape, all big in here. Cave woman was ugly. If she was Delilah back then, they would never have been able to trick Samson. Because she was ugly and she was funky. Damn, Moses had to teach them. Oh yeah, I'm not telling no lies now. They have come a long way, but don't you laugh. Don't you laugh. Because you're crawling around on your all fours like a dog today yourself. You are all out of shape and you're funky as hell. Don't tell me, just like they were done, they have done it also unto you. Moses had a hard time civilizing white people. He had to put a board in their back so they could stand upright. Because after you crawl around for 1,000 years, you're used to that, so they had to have a board. And every time he would look around, they'd snatch the board out. The board in the back also represents the law of God that will straighten you up from living a life of an animal. But every time Moses would turn his back, they would forsake the law. Because without the law, you fall down on a dead level and you become a serpent, you become a dragon, you become a beast. But when you obey God's law, He allows you to grow in uprightness and you can become a righteous person. Moses' law was a powerful law. That law was to last for 2,000 years until the coming of Jesus. But 1,700 years from Moses, a man named Nimrod was born. Nimrod was born on December the 25th. Nimrod was a wicked man, had sex with his own mother. Nimrod was really something. And after Nimrod grew into power, Nimrod broke the law of Moses, meaning broke the strength of that law on the Caucasian people. So the board, which is the law, was taken out of their back. And when Jesus was born into the world, darkness was over the whole of that area. Wherever Europe was, it was in darkness. Palestine. You say, well, how did white people get into Palestine and Syria and Iraq and all those places that were the province of black people? How did that happen? See, they are shaped in the image and the likeness of God. We are the God that they're talking about. The original people. White people have our life, our form. Yes. They come from the original man. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that when they were cable-towed and put out into Europe, we rounded up all that we could find. We couldn't find them all. They were hidden in the homes of some of our people, and they grew up among us. And so the Bible says the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair-skinned. Yeah, well, fair means just. Fair means equitable. But in this case, fair means white. Because white people are known to be just and equitable. Because they're white. So if you're black, you're the opposite of fair and equitable. I mean, this is the symbolism. But the sons of God, black, saw the daughters of men, white, fair, and took them as wives, and race mixing began in the Holy Land. So you know what race mixing produces? Produces people my color, some of your color, some even lighter. Now you among the people, and then the conquerors start coming out of Europe down into these areas of the world, conquering, marrying, intermarrying, and so now the real black Egyptian is pushed out from southern Egypt